Hey guys, it's Christy with Christy's Custom Creations, and today I want to bring everyone back to the basics for this tutorial and show how to glitter a tumbler using chunky glitter. So for this tumbler here, I used one of my KCC glitters. It's called Phoenix Fire, and it is such a pretty burnt orange chunky mix, and it lays so well under epoxy. I don't have any parts poking up. So I'll show you exactly how I used that glitter to glitter this tumbler. So before we get started, I wanted to let everyone know that we have decided to release a few new colors and bring in some color shifting glitters. So we've got Esmeralda here. It is a purple to blue color shift. We have Mermaid Scales here. It is a blue to kind of like a greenish teal color shift. And then we have got Harvest Moon. Harvest Moon is absolutely beautiful. It's kind of an orange to yellow to green to pink. It's kind of a crazy color shift, but it is so pretty. And then also we have brought in a new pigment powder called Salty Mermaid. It is a color shift. It goes from a teal to kind of a blue color. So you can check those out on the website, kccglitter.com. And a reminder to everybody, Unicorn Dreams is back in stock. So if you did not get your hands on it before, be sure to check it out. So let's go ahead and get started, and I will show everyone how to glitter just a basic chunky glitter tumbler.
So to get started, I have got a cup, and I actually messed up painting the base of it. If you can see here, I've got a couple spots that looked a little crazy. So rather than stripping this cup, I figured, hey, let's just throw glitter over it. It would be the perfect opportunity to make a chunky glitter tumbler tutorial. So that's what we're doing. So I have got some epoxy mixed up. I've got Tumblerpoxy mixed up, which, as most of you know, Tumblerpoxy is my go-to epoxy. Also sell it at kccglitter.com. And I have mixed up, I think I was working on some other projects during this, so I mixed up about 15 milliliters of Tumblerpoxy epoxy, but you don't need that much. This is a chunky cup, so I use a little bit more epoxy than normal on this cup, but I think I probably used between 5 and 10 milliliters, but I was also doing some little, I don't know if you saw it in my previous video or not, but the little coin capsules, I was doing some glitter samples with those, so you probably saw that. As you can see, I didn't use all that epoxy. I used just enough to, just cover the whole cup. So get it on there, smooth it out, and then I take one finger, I start at the bottom of the cup, and I push up the cup as the cup spins, just smoothing it out. And then once I get that, I swipe my finger across the bottom of the cup, and then I take my blowtorch and I just make a quick pass over the whole cup as it turns, popping any micro bubbles and making sure that the epoxy lays nice and smooth. And as I said before, this cup here, I messed up painting the base of it. So if you're gonna cover a cup with glitter, the base color doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, I like to keep my base color similar to the color glitter that I'm using, but it doesn't have to be perfect because there are very obvious imperfections in the base color. We're just gonna cover it with glitter. So this is Phoenix Fire. This is a burnt orange holographic chunky mix that I have with KCC Glitter, and I am just going to start sprinkling it very freely all over the cup. And then I've got my paper plate underneath to catch any of the excess glitter that falls off of the tumbler here as it goes on. So I'm just gonna get really good coverage as the cup turns and just cover it with this absolutely stunning glitter. Once you get the cup covered, make sure you don't forget the bottom. I just sprinkle it on the bottom. Some people like to take the cup off the turner and put it on the bottom, but I've found that I can just kind of toss the glitter onto the bottom a little bit, and it gets on there just fine, as you can see what I'm doing here. And then I go back over and just make sure I didn't miss any spots. Make sure you've got really good coverage and everything. And as the epoxy kind of soaks the glitter, or the glitter kind of soaks the epoxy in, you may find, little spots that you missed here and there. One reason that I like to use a little bit more epoxy than normal when applying glitter, the epoxy method with a chunky glitter, is it helps it lay a little bit flatter. So rather than doing just a super, super thin coat of epoxy on it, I like to do it just slightly thicker, and it helps that glitter lay down. Now I've got a piece of wax paper, and I just tear the wax paper off of the roll, and you don't need a big piece at all, and I just go through and I pat down the glitter, because if you have little pieces of glitter poking up everywhere, you are literally going to spend an eternity and multiple layers of epoxy trying to make that cup smooth. So you want to go ahead and do it here. While it's wet, you want to just take a little piece of wax paper. Some people like to use parchment paper, and just pat down that chunky glitter. Pat it down all over the cup. Make sure you don't have any little areas poking up, no pokies or anything like that. And don't forget your bottom. And then right here around the edges, I'm super careful around the bottom rim, but just pat it down just like you see me doing here. And if you start getting epoxy on your wax paper, just fold it over or grab a new piece of wax paper. But just be careful, don't move your glitter around too much, and there you go. Let it dry completely. I let this dry for about 8 hours or so, and then once it was completely dry, I actually went in with some clear spray paint, which you will see here. I find with chunky glitter that sometimes it likes to try to repel the epoxy. So this is 2X clear gloss spray paint by Rust-Oleum that I used, and I just took it outside and gave it a really good spray down just to make sure that my glitter stayed in place, and also it helps keep that chunky glitter from repelling the epoxy. So I have 30 milliliters of Tumblerpoxy epoxy mixed up. Once that clear spray dried, it was time to apply the next coat of epoxy, and I'm just going to apply it just like I always do, the 30 milliliters, and I'm going to just get good coverage, and then I'm going to take my finger like I always do, start at the bottom of the cup and push up as the cup spins, smoothing it down all the way around the cup. And then once I get it smooth all the way around, I'm going to take my finger, swipe the bottom, and then it is time to go in with the blowtorch and hit the bottom real quick with it, and then all over the sides, just back and forth, super fast. I know the video is sped up, but I'm moving fast as well, because you don't want to burn the epoxy or stay in one spot too long. You just want to pop those micro bubbles and let it spin. So after about 8 hours, it was time for a second coat of epoxy over the chunky glitter. I find that 2 coats of epoxy over chunky glitter is usually perfect for me. And then after those 2 coats of epoxy over the chunky, it's time to sand so that it's nice and smooth. And at that point, you can add a decal or whatever you want to add to it before your final coat of epoxy. So like I said, we're working on our second coat of epoxy here. And for this coat, I have also mixed up 30 milliliters of Tumblerpoxy epoxy. And I'm going to do the same exact thing, just get really good coverage, get it all over the cup. And as you can see, if you look up on the rim of the cup, you'll see little pokies poking up over the edge of the cup, which I will show you how to take care of that here in just a bit. But just smooth out the epoxy as the cup spins, starting at the bottom. Swipe your finger across the bottom. Time for the blowtorch. Take it, just hit it really quick as it spins, pop any micro bubbles, make it super nice and smooth. And then I let this dry overnight. It honestly probably dried for about 12 hours, because I like my epoxy to be super nice and dry before I sand it. So we're going to take care of these pokies up here on the rim. So to take care of those, I take this 220 grit sandpaper, and it actually has an adhesive sticky back to it. So it is perfect. It sticks to my hand. I will never go to anything else. It is my go-to sandpaper. So I will have it linked down in the description box below. I buy it on Amazon. I buy most of my stuff on Amazon, but I'm just going to work those edges really good. I'm going to, work the top rim, and then also here on the bottom. You want to be careful around the bottom, because you don't want to get too deep. You don't want to get too deep. You don't want to sand too much around the edge, because the glitter and epoxy right there around the bottom edge isn't super thick, because the cup curves right there, obviously. So, and you just be careful around that bottom edge. And then I'm going to give the whole cup a really good sand down. The body of the cup really didn't need much love. I just gave it a really easy sanding, and make sure no little pokies were sticking up or anything. But my main focus is this top edge here. And so once I kind of get some of that epoxy and glitter knocked down on the edge, I take my flat razor, and be careful with the flat razor. Don't ever cut towards yourself, or any of the crafting knives. Don't cut towards yourself. Don't cut towards your hand or anything like that. You don't want to cut yourself or try to knock a finger off or anything like that. So I just take my flat razor here and I just run it around that top edge, and it takes off any little bits of epoxy or glitter that was still trying to hang on after the sanding. And then once I knock that down, I go ahead and sand it again. And I do like to take my razor to it after I've already sanded it some, just because I find that if I do, it helps keep it from like trying to knock off big chunks of it. So I took my cup and I washed it in the sink with Dawn dish soap. I always wash it with Dawn dish soap after I sand it. So I have got 30 milliliters of Tumblerpoxy epoxy mixed up, and Tumblerpoxy epoxy, it is so smooth, and I'm kind of an aggressive stirrer, so I love it when it comes out almost bubble free whenever I'm stirring it. It's kind of a proud moment for me. But I mean, it doesn't take much to get Tumblerpoxy bubble free. It's super easy to work with, and look how beautiful this cup looks once epoxy goes over that sanded cup. It just, I love this cup. And I'm actually going to turn this cup into I think a peekaboo fall type cup. I just wanted to go ahead and make it and show how, and cover up this disaster paint job that I had on the bottom of it. And I figured, hey, what a better opportunity than to turn it into a chunky tutorial for y'all, because I want to later on turn this into a peekaboo cup. So y'all keep an eye out for that. I'm going to make it some kind of fall peekaboo. I'm not really sure just yet how I want to do it. So if you have any suggestions, I'm definitely open to suggestions, but I'm going to turn that into a tutorial as well. Like I said, just a fall peekaboo cup. So for this final coat, I got really good coverage. Then I swipe the bottom, and time to hit it with the blowtorch. Torch it really super quick, and then leave it alone. Leave it alone for the next 8 hours. Let it completely dry, and you are going to have a beautiful chunky glittered cup. If you'd like to get your hands on this Phoenix Fire Chunky Glitter Mix or any of my other glitters, check them out at kccglitter.com. I will have it linked in the description box below. And as always, a huge thank you to my amazing Patreon members, my KCC Diamonds. Y'all rock. Y'all are awesome, and some of my biggest supporters. Y'all have no idea how much your support means to me. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend and a wonderful upcoming week. And if you like this video, please be sure to hit the like and subscribe button for more videos like it. And as always, y'all take care. Bye.